Okay, let's begin. All right, we are in, first of all, welcome. Welcome to everyone. All right, welcome to session number 167 of Kevin Reads A Course in Miracles. Today we will be focusing on chapter 21, entitled Reason and Perception, okay, and section 3, Roman numeral 3, entitled Faith, Belief, and Vision. Okay. Just to go over it, the Course's idea of reason is when we're thinking with the right mind, so to speak. All right, when we're asking for our perceptions to be corrected. All right, that's our use of reason. Okay. So, and faith is what we're invested in. We, it's like you're betting on your favorite team, So we put our faith in something, all right? And what we put our faith in, we believe, all right? And vision is the corrected perception, okay? So, faith, belief, and vision. Let us begin. Paragraph 1. It says, all special relationships have sin as their goal, for they are bargains with reality, toward which the seeming union is adjusted. Forget not this, to bargain is to set a limit, and any brother with whom you have a limited relationship, you hate. You may attempt to keep the bargain in the name of fairness, sometimes demanding payment of yourself, perhaps more often of the other. Thus, in the fairness, you attempt to ease the guilt that comes from the accepted purpose of the relationship. And that is why the Holy Spirit must change its purpose to make it useful to Him and harmless to you. The special relationship, all right? Quick review. I think I have perceived needs, all right? You or this will satisfy my need, okay? So I make a bargain. It's all, down under the table, so to speak. We do this quickly, subconsciously, okay? So, then he says the Holy Spirit must change this, okay? Because he says all special relationships have sin as their goal. Now remember, the idea of sin is just the belief in separation. The belief in separation from God, all right? And that's what the special relationship has as its goal, the reinforcement of that idea, all right? Instead of remembering that my Creator has endowed me with everything that I need, all right? There are no needs in reality in heaven, all right? You have all, okay? But the special relationship here in the ego thought system, in form, time, and space, we have perceived needs, and fulfilling them and even thinking we have them is kind of reinforcing the idea that I separated from my source. I separated from God. All right, so all special relationships have sin as their goal. Individuality, separation. All right, for they are bargains with reality, toward which the seeming union is adjusted. All right, so I'm making this bargain that I won't look at the the guilt of, I won't look at the idea that I believe I separated from God. I'm just going to have my needs met and still keep my individuality, right? I'm going to try to pay as little as possible for what I need, all right? So, all right, so they're bargains with reality, toward which the seeming union is adjusted. We're always adjusting the union, the relationship, we're always adjusting it. All right, he says, forget not this, to bargain is to set a limit. Okay. And any brother with whom you have a limited relationship, you hate. All right. Now, we're not, most likely, unless it's a special hate relationship, you know, you automatically hate that person when you see him, or that thing, or whatever, or that job, or whatever, all right? But the hatred is usually not in your awareness. It's not up there. That too is below the consciousness, the unconscious, as Freud would say. Trying to make the unconscious conscious here, all right? Because, and we hate the person we're bargaining with, that we're in this limited relationship with. You know, unbeknownst to us, really, the hatred comes from judging them as separated from God also, okay? And reflecting that back to me, all right? It's on a very deep level. That's why this is a psychological spirituality, a spiritual psychology, any way I want to look at it. But it's the relief of bringing this up and not judging yourself for it, right? And then asking to have my perception corrected. That's where the release from this nonsense comes, all right? He says, you may attempt to keep the bargain in the name of fairness, you know, and sometimes demanding payment of yourself, but perhaps more often of the other. She's just being cute there, I think. All right, we just keep the bargain going in the name of fairness. And sometimes you do a little, sometimes they got to do a little. Right? He says, but more often than not, they got to do a little more. All right. So you may attempt to keep the bargain in the name of fairness, sometimes demanding payment of yourself, perhaps more often of the other. Thus, in the fairness, you attempt to ease the guilt that comes from the accepted purpose of the relationship. So by working out this fairness, oh, you know, the relationship is a give and take, you know, so you're working out this fairness, all right? He says this is an attempt to ease the guilt over what the relationship represents. All right? The purpose of the relationship is to maintain the idea of separation. All right? So you maintain the guilt over the separation. All right? And we, you know, really do dissociate from that. All right? Or we repress it at least. And he says, and we act as if this is the way it goes. This is what marriage is all about. This is what working is all about. Right? This is what, whatever it is, the relationship, person, place, thing, situation. All right? He says it's an attempt. The purpose of it is to repress and hide the guilt over believing in separation, believing that you did it. All right? And he says, and that's why the Holy Spirit must change the purpose of the relationship. All right? At some point, we have to say, wait, there has to be a better way. This relationship is really not working. Okay? It's really difficult. Right? And the difficulty leads to impossibility. At which point we can turn inward to the Holy Spirit and say, please help me. There has to be a better way. That's the initial invitation to the Holy Spirit. of Helen Schuckman and Bill Thetford, commenting on how their personal relationship, their business relationship, and the relationship they had with the psychology department at the university, right, at the medical center, it was, it was bellicose, all right? There was always arguing and backbiting, and they said there has to be a better way. And, Bill Thetford said that there must be a better way, and Helen Schuckman agreed, and she said, I will help you find it. And that was the invitation to the Holy Spirit. Helen's inner dictation began soon after. So that's what we do. We go to inside. You might have to reach that point of exasperation with your relationship, and you say, there has to be a better way. Right? And you're willing to be shown. That's the invitation to the Holy Spirit, all right, who can change the purpose of the relationship. Change the purpose from proving that you're separated from God and you're guilty, right, to proving that you never separated from God, that you are a child of God, that you are part of the oneness, that you are part of the great rays of light, okay? And so we start the progress back toward that realization. The purpose of the relationship has changed. I no longer want to see the other as guilty, right? Or make them guilty for something, right? I'm willing to see the innocence. I'm desirous of peace. These are all invitations to the Holy Spirit to have your perceptions corrected, right? Not correcting the world, not correcting the other person, right? They might behave the same way. The world's going to behave the same way, that's for sure, right? And the world never changes. The only thing that changes is technology. I think I coined that phrase 30 years ago. Oh no, more. Almost 50 years ago. Nothing changes but technology. But that's neither here nor there. But what needs to change is our perception of what we're seeing. And we ask the Holy Spirit, help me. I'm willing to have my perceptions corrected. I'm willing to make room for the truth. Okay. So, and that is why the Holy Spirit must change the purpose to make it useful to Him, right, in His quest to make us or help us remember the oneness. And then it's harmless to us. Now the relationship is no longer harmless to me. I've asked to change the purpose of it. I no longer want it to reinforce guilt of any kind. Because if I'm reinforcing it in you, hey, I just put another brick in the wall, as they say. Alrighty then. Here we go, paragraph 2. If you accept this change, you have accepted the idea of making room for truth. The source of sin is gone. You may imagine that you still experience its effects, but it is not your purpose and you no longer want it. No one allows a purpose to be replaced while he desires it. For nothing is so cherished and protected as is the goal the mind accepts. This it will follow, grimly or happily, but always with faith, and with the persistence that faith inevitably brings. The power of faith is never recognized if it is placed in sin, but it is always recognized if it is placed in love. All right, so if I accept this change of purpose, All right? I no longer want to reinforce division and individuality and separation and guilt. I no longer want to do that. Right? I want to welcome corrected perception and truth. All right? He says the source of sin is gone. All right? So the source is the choosing of the ego thought system, the choosing of the belief in separation. That's the source of sin, the ego thought system. All right? He says that then it's gone. He says you may still imagine that you experience its effects, which we do. All right? But it's not your purpose anymore. It's no longer your purpose. All right? And I believe that when we start practicing this, sometimes we slip back, it seems, but we renew our purpose. No, I don't want that. I don't want to be projecting guilt. I want my perceptions to be corrected. I want peace. All right? So we still think we're experiencing the effects of separation, but where our purpose has changed and we're working our way out of it. That's the experience. All right? In human terms, we feel it's a process. Okay? So the source of sin is gone. You may imagine you still experience its effects, but it's not your purpose, and you no longer want it. All right? And no one allows a purpose to be replaced while he desires it. All right? So the purpose won't be changed as long as you keep desiring to project your guilt. All right? And to just have your imagined needs fulfilled. Right? For nothing is so cherished and protected as is a goal that the mind accepts. So if the mind accepts the goal of separation, we will defend it and protect it. All right? When Jesus comes around and starts telling you I and the Father are one, you're going to be screaming at him, get him out of here. Right? When the man in Plato's cave comes and tells the people that that there's a light behind them, right? That there's a different life outside the cave. Somebody will run up and knock them out. Right? It's people that are dedicated to the idea of separation. Very afraid of encountering love. Okay? So, nothing is so cherished and protected as is the goal the mind accepts. This it will follow. So whatever goal that we choose, we will follow it, grimly or happily. Okay? So, but always with faith, right? We've invested in it, all right? And with the persistence that faith inevitably brings, all right? If we put our faith in the idea of separation, he goes, you'll be persistent, okay? You'll be persistent until you become very tired of it. The power of faith is never recognized if it is placed in sin. So this belief in separation, we don't really recognize that we have made a choice and invested in the idea of separation. We put our belief in there. It says you don't really recognize that when you invest in, you put your faith in separation, sin. He says, but you always recognize the power of faith when it is placed in love. So when we go back to that quiet space in our mind and we ask the Holy Spirit of Jesus, help me to see correctly, he said, you will witness the power of love. All right? it's always recognized, all right, if your faith is placed in love. Paragraph 3, what is strange to you, why is it strange to you that faith can move mountains? This is indeed a little feat for such a power. For faith can keep the Son of God in chains as long as he believes he is in chains. And when he is released from them, it will be simply because he no longer believes in them, withdrawing faith that they can hold him and placing it in his freedom instead. It is impossible to place equal faith in opposite directions. What faith you give to sin, you take away from holiness. And what you offer holiness has been removed from sin. All right? So when Jesus says that, why is it strange? Why is it strange to you that faith can move mountains? He goes, this is indeed a little feat for such a power. He's once again alluding to the power of the mind. We are not in touch with the power of the mind, believe me. I mean, there's some people that, have come, they come a little close to it, but, the power of the mind is just kind of beyond what us commoners have learned, okay? All right, I don't want to go into the Stephen Hawking tangent or anything like that, or the David Bohm room, right? This is Jesus telling you that your mind is very powerful, right? For faith can keep the Son of God in chains. That's how powerful it is, right? And what he means by keeping you in chains is believing that you're separated from God. Automatically, we are chained to the ego thought system. We are enslaved to the belief in separation. All right? And so you place your faith in the system of separation and individuality, and we're in chains. All right? And when he is released from them, it will be simply because he no longer believes in them. Right? So we no longer believe that we're separated. And that's the key. We're working toward that surety of belief that we are not separated from God. And the chains are gone. The chains are gone. All right? Now, when you're released, it's simply because he no longer believes in the chains, withdrawing faith that they can hold him, all right, and placing it in his freedom instead. And then he says it's impossible to put your faith in two different places, all right? Separation and oneness, right? You're putting one foot in one canoe and another foot in another canoe. Quickly, that's not going to work, all right? It's impossible to place faith in opposite directions. Right? So he tells us what faith you put in sin, it takes away from holiness. And what you offer holiness has been removed from sin. Okay? Paragraph 4. Faith and belief and vision are the means by which the goal of holiness is reached. Through them, the Holy Spirit leads you to the real world and away from all illusions where your faith was laid. This is his direction, the only one he ever sees. And when you wander, he reminds you there is but one. His faith and his belief and vision are all for you. And when you have accepted them completely instead of yours, you will have need of them no longer. For faith and vision and belief are meaningful only before the state of certainty is reached. In heaven, they are unknown, yet heaven is reached through them. So in other words, the faith, the belief, the vision of the Holy Spirit, we put our faith in the Holy Spirit, in Jesus. Help me to see correctly. All right? And we believe, what we put our faith in is going to work. And we see, we have our perceptions corrected. We see correctly. That's the vision. He said these are tools. These are tools. Like he speaks about the real world. These are tools that get us to the real world. And then, after we spend a little time in the real world, noticing how perception is corrected, and everything is either a call for love or an offering of love, right? Then, without fanfare, we are back in reality where we don't need the tools anymore. Right? We don't need the faith, the vision, the belief, because everything is known at that point. All right. Okay. For faith and vision and belief are meaningful only before the state of certainty is reached. All right. And we will reach that state of certainty. I am certain that I am one with God. I am certain of the oneness. All right. There is no insecurity. All right. There are no more questions. All right. In heaven, they're unknown. These tools are unknown. But heaven is reached through them. We have to use these tools to get there. All right? So we constantly go to the Holy Spirit. All right? We're using the tools. Help me. I'm willing to have my perceptions corrected. All right? Where am I? Paragraph 5. It is impossible that the Son of God lack faith, but he can choose where he would have it be. Faithlessness is not a lack of faith, but a faith in nothing. Faith given to illusions does not lack power, for by it does the Son of God believe that he is powerless. Thus is he faithless to himself, but strong in faith in his illusions about himself. For faith, perception, and belief you made as a means for losing certainty and finding sin. This mad direction was your choice, and by your faith in what you chose, you made what you desired. Once again, commenting on the power of the mind. Because he says it's impossible that the Son of God lack faith. All right? He says it's not that you lack faith, it's that you put it on the wrong horse. Right? You're betting on the wrong team. Right? He says you could choose where your faith is. All right? And that faith is very powerful. Okay? So faithlessness is not a lack of faith. All right, so we put our faith in the ego. That's not being faithless. Well, it's being faithless because it's putting your faith in nothing. All right? You're betting on nothing. All right? You're betting on an invisible horse to win the invisible race. All right? You're betting on nothing. Faithlessness is not a lack of faith, but faith in nothing. And then he says, faith given to illusions, which is what we do here, does not lack power, the power of the mind. All right? I put my faith in the illusion of separation. Right? Faith given to illusions does not lack power, For by it does the Son of God believe that he is powerless. So that power that I have of my mind, I put my faith in the idea of separation, and boom, now I believe I'm powerless. Right? He says that's how powerful your mind is. It can make you believe you're powerless. Okay? And Jesus, which isn't that silly? All right? But that's what we do. I don't know how I got here. It's not my fault. I didn't do it. And that's what we keep doing. We project guilt onto the other so that we can maintain our individuality and still keep our innocence, so we speak. So we think, by projecting the guilt onto the other. All right? Thus is he faithless to himself, by believing that I'm separate and powerless now. Thus I'm faithless to myself. All right? But strong in faith in his illusions about himself. For faith, perception, and belief you made, right, as a means for losing certainty and finding sin. All right, so he says you made up all these tools. All right? Faith, perception, see, not vision, but faith, perception, and belief you made, right, as a means for losing certainty and finding sin, separation, as a means of proving it to ourselves. Hey, look, the world is real. Hey, look, I got a rash, whatever. You know, my body's real. All right? So, thus is he faithless to himself. He says, you made these tools as a means for losing certainty, losing the certainty of heaven, all right, and finding separation and individuality. He said, this mad direction was your choice, all right? This belief in separation was my choice. Not me, Kevin, but the decision-making part of the mind. Remember, Jesus is always addressing the decision-making part of the mind. So that's what he's talking to. He says, look, this was your choice. All right? This mad direction was your choice. And by your faith in what you chose, you made what you desired. You, the individual, the decision-making part of the mind, the one mind, the decision maker, he said, you made the choice. Right? And that the second that the tiny mad idea appeared, you made the choice. Right? And that's what you wanted. You wanted to be separate for whatever reason. So here you are. He keeps alluding to the power of the mind here, and remember, I mean, just the mind is that powerful. We don't need to go off into physics or quantum physics or theology or philosophy, which the power of the mind goes way beyond those things also. All right, so let's not go there. Paragraph 7. The Holy Spirit has use for all the means for sin by which you sought to find it. So all these tools that we made, all right, this faith, perception, and belief, he says the Holy Spirit can use those tools. Okay? Holy Spirit has a use for all the means for sin by which you sought to find it. But as he uses them, they lead away from sin because his purpose lies in the opposite direction. He sees the means you use, but not the purpose for which you made them. He would not take them from you, for he sees their value as a means for what he wills for you. You make perception that you might choose among your brothers and seek for sin with them, The Holy Spirit sees perception as a means to teach you that the vision of the holy relationship is all you want to see. Then will you give your faith to holiness, desiring and believing in it because of your desire. All right. So once we ask to have our perception corrected, he says more and more you're going to see that this is what you want. This is what you want. All right. The Holy Spirit sees perception as a means to teach you that the vision of the holy relationship is all you really want. So all my relationships, I want to see them correctly, right? Not as a means of projecting guilt, but a means of finding the innocence. He says, so the Holy Spirit uses it. And he says, and then you become, well, you just want it more and more. You become desirous of it. Desiring and believing in it because you desire it. Then will you give faith to holiness, desiring and believing in it because of your desire. Paragraph 7. Faith and belief become attached to vision, as all the means that once served sin are redirected now toward holiness. For what you think is sin is limitation, and whom you try to limit to the body you hate because you fear. In your refusal to forgive him, you would condemn him to the body because the means for sin are dear to you. And so the body has your faith and your belief, but holiness would set your brother free, removing hatred by removing fear, not as a symptom, but as its source. At its source, which is the mind, the choice for separation. Okay? He says faith and belief become attached to vision. So once I have my perceptions changed, as they're changing, I invest more heavily in vision and changing perception. All right? And all the means that once served sin, separation, are redirected toward holiness and oneness and innocence. All right. For what you think is sin is limitation. So when I'm believing I'm separated, I'm limiting myself and you. All right. And whom you try to limit to the body, you hate because you fear. I fear repercussions from God, the guilt. Oh my God, guilt demands punishment. He's going to get me. So I have to project it onto them. Right? Or I think they're going to get something instead of me. You know, this competitive world that we live in. And in your refusal to forgive him, you would condemn him to the body. You keep him separated. By my refusal to see his innocence, I'm keeping him locked up in the body. Right? And you would condemn him to the body because the means for sin are dear to you. The body is the means for separation, for sin. And it's very dear to me. So I want to keep him there. I want to keep her there. All right. And so the body has your faith and your belief. All right. He said, but holiness would set your brother free, removing hatred by removing fear, not as a symptom, but at its source. All right. Holiness, having your perception corrected to vision, all right? That would set your brother free, right? By removing hatred, by removing fear, right? We're afraid of love, we're afraid of God, right? Right, so remove that, and you can set everyone free. Right. And he says, you don't just remove it as a symptom, like, oh, I got a rash, and you put some kind of ointment or something on it, and the symptom is removed. You no longer see the rash. Right? You don't realize you've pushed it deeper down, but we removed the symptom. He says, you didn't remove the source. All right? The source is, for us, our metaphysical rash, so to speak. The source of that is the belief in separation. So we remove that rash from the source. We remove the fear at its source, right, from the mind, the belief in separation. All right. Paragraph 8. Those who would free their brothers from the body can have no fear. They have renounced the means for sin by choosing to let all limitations be removed. As they desire to look upon their brothers in holiness, the power of their belief and faith sees far beyond the body, supporting vision, not obstructing it. But first they choose to recognize how much their faith had limited their understanding of the world, desiring to place its power elsewhere should another point of view be given them. The miracle that follows this decision, the miracles that follow this decision are also born of faith. For all who choose to look away from sin are given vision and are led to holiness. Okay. So he says, those of you who would have your perceptions corrected will have no fear. All right? Because they've risen above the limitations. They want all limitations removed. Limitations are imposed on us, or we impose them on ourselves, by believing we're separated from God. Right? They have renounced the means for sin by choosing to let all limitations be removed. All right? I'm willing to see who I really am. Right? And as they desire to look upon their brothers in holiness, right? So more and more, as we desire to see everything corrected, as we want to look on the others in holiness, right? As they desire to look upon their brothers in holiness, the power of their belief and faith sees far beyond the body, supporting vision, not obstructing it. Right? So we become stronger and stronger in that desire to see past the body. And the vision becomes clearer and clearer. All right? He says, but first they choose to recognize how much their faith had limited their understanding of the world. So we recognize, oh yeah, I believed in the ego. You recognize you had the problem. Then you ask for the problem to be removed. So, but first they chose to recognize how much their faith had limited their understanding of the world, desiring to place its power elsewhere, should another point of view be given them. So always making adjustments, okay? The miracle that follows this decision, the miracles that follow this decision are born of faith. So, I see, I no longer want to follow the idea of separation from God. And he says the miracles that follow this decision are born of faith. So we put our faith in the oneness, in the correction, in the vision. For all who choose to look away from sin are given vision and are led to holiness. Paragraph 9. Those who believe in sin must think the Holy Spirit asks for sacrifice, for this is how they think their purpose is accomplished. Brother, the Holy Spirit knows that sacrifice brings nothing. He makes no bargains. And if you seek to limit him, you will hate him because you are afraid. The gift that he has given you is more than anything that stands this side of heaven. The instant for its recognition is at hand. Join your awareness to what has already joined, to what has been already joined. The faith you give your brother can accomplish this. For he who loves the world is seeing it for you, without one spot of sin upon it, and in the innocence that makes the sight of it as beautiful as heaven. All right? So he says, when we believe in the ego's thought system, we always have that idea that something has to be sacrificed in order to get back in the good graces of God or something. All right? Or whatever it is that you believe in that will help you, make you happy. You have to sacrifice something. All right? He says that's how they think their purpose is accomplished. And he says the Holy Spirit knows that sacrifice brings nothing. You don't have to sacrifice anything. You already have everything. You just have to let it rise up in your awareness. All right? The Holy Spirit doesn't make bargains. Right? The gift that he has given you is already more than anything that stands this side of heaven. The gift he gives us is the memory of who we are. That corrected perception, the vision, is the gift. And with the vision rises that memory of who we are. He says that's greater than anything you can get here on this side of heaven. And he says, and the instant for its recognition is at hand. Right? Recognizing your own innocence, recognizing who you are, recognizing your relationship to God. He says that moment is at hand. Right? It's here. Join your awareness to what has already been joined. The faith you give your brother can accomplish this. All right. So when I am willing to see the other correctly, instead of judging, instead of projecting guilt, all right, he says you can accomplish the recognition of who you are. All right. The faith you give your brother can accomplish this. For he who loves the world is seeing it for you. So the Holy Spirit, Jesus, is seeing the world for us. We're asking them, could you do that for me? Could you translate the world for me? Tell me what I'm seeing here. All right? And they see it without one spot of sin upon it, and the innocence that makes the sight of it as beautiful as heaven. All right? And we will get to that point. That time is at hand when you will see the whole world as beautiful as heaven. All right. Paragraph 10. Your faith and sacrifice has given it great power in your sight, except you do not realize you cannot see because of it. For sacrifice must be exacted of a body, and by another body. The mind could neither ask it nor receive it of itself, and no more could the body. The intention is in the mind, which tries to use the body to carry out the means for sin in which the mind believes. Thus is the joining of mind and body an inescapable belief of those who value sin. And so is sacrifice invariably a means for limitation, and thus for hate. Right? He says we've projected and we've made a body. Okay. He says your faith and sacrifice has given sacrifice a great power. Right? Except you don't realize, you cannot see correctly because of it. All right? We think we've sacrificed who we really are. Now we got to pay for it. All right? And he says everything is going on in the mind. The intention is in the mind, which tries to use the body to carry out the means of separation. Right? So the mind tries to use the body to prove that we're separated. It keeps saying this over and over again. Right? Thus is the joining of mind and body an inescapable belief for those who value sin. Okay? So we think they're inseparable, the mind and the body. Right? If you value the separation, you keep believing that and reinforcing it. And so sacrifice invariably a means for limitation and thus for hate. Right? So, we think we have to make these bargains and sacrifice. I have to do this, in order to get what I want, I need to do this. So he says, then it's a grounds for hatred. All right. Paragraph 11. The only reason I'm not clarifying that anymore is that I think he keeps saying the same things over and over again. All right. So paragraph 11. Think you the Holy Spirit is concerned with this? He gives not what it is his purpose to lead you from. Right? You think he would deprive you for your good. But good and deprivation are opposites and cannot meaningfully join in any way. It is like saying that the moon and sun are one because they come from night and day, and so they must be joined. Yet sight of one is but the sign the other has disappeared from sight. Nor is it possible that what gives light be one with what depends on darkness to be seen. Neither demands the sacrifice of the other, yet on the absence of the other does each depend. All right. So he says, do you think the Holy Spirit is concerned with what you think the body and the mind are joined? All right. He gives what it is his purpose to lead you from. He gives not what it is his purpose to lead you from. So in other words, he's not supporting the idea that the body and the mind are inseparable down here in separation. He's trying to lead you away from that idea. He's trying to tell you that everything is in the mind, and that the body is meaningless. Right? And don't jump ahead and automatically declare that the body is meaningless, and take care of yourself, right? Take care of your body, be normal, all right? Just have your thoughts corrected, all right? Everything will take care of itself, all right? Everything will fall into place, all right? Don't deny the fact that you believe you have a body, all right? So he says, you're afraid of the Holy Spirit because you think he's going to deprive you of your body for your own good. It's not happening. It's not the way it is. He says, but good and deprivation are opposites, and they cannot meaningfully join in any way. So I can't deprive you for your own good. Okay? And the Holy Spirit is not going to deprive me of anything for my own good. It's not going to snatch away my body. All right? Not going to snatch away my thoughts unless I bring them to him and ask them to be corrected. Right? So the Holy Spirit doesn't deprive us. God doesn't deprive us of anything for our own good. Right? Right? I'm doing this for your own good. No, you're not. All right? So he says, good and deprivation are opposites, and they cannot meaningfully join in any way. It is like saying that the moon and the sun are one, because they come with night and day, and so they must be joined. The sight of one is but the sign, the other has disappeared. Nor is it possible that what gives light be one with what depends on darkness to be seen. Neither demands the sacrifice of the other, yet on the absence of the other does each depend. Paragraph 12. The body was made to be a sacrifice to sin, and in the darkness, so it still is seen. Yet in the light of vision, it is looked upon quite differently. You can have faith in it to serve the Holy Spirit's goal and give it power to serve as a means to help the blind to see. But in their seeing, they look past it, as do you. The faith and the belief you gave it belongs beyond. You gave perception and belief and faith from mind to body. Let them now be given back to what produced them, and can use them still to save itself from what it made. Right? So the body was made as a sacrifice to sin. All right, my belief in separation, so my body was made to prove it. All right? And in the darkness is so it is still seen. So in the darkness of the world of form, the world of the ego's thought system, sin, guilt, and fear, the body is still seen as the main character. He says, but yet in the light of vision, it's looked on quite differently. So we look on the body quite differently. It's no longer a means to prove separation. All right? In the light of vision, it's seen differently. You can have faith in it to serve the Holy Spirit's goal, right? And give it power to serve as a means to help the blind to see, right? You can still be in the body, walking around, right? You're here in this time-space thing, all right, in form, and you're helping people to get out of it. You're helping the blind to see by having your perception corrected. All right? Because the minds are joined. All right? The mind is joined. There's only one mind. All right? And when my vision perception is corrected, I see beyond the body. All right? And they will too. They will too. But in their seeing, they look past the body, as do you. The faith and belief you gave it belongs beyond. Right? So the faith that I gave to the body one time belongs beyond it. Right? The belief I gave to the body belongs beyond the body. Right? You gave perception, belief, and faith from mind to body. Right? So I misplaced it. Put it in the wrong place. All right? I put my faith, my belief on the body. He says, so now you give them back. Give them back to what produced them. What produced them? The decision-making part of my mind. He says, bring it back. Right? Bring it back to the decision-making part of your mind. And that part of your mind can use these ideas, can use them still to save itself from what it made. So I bring it back to the decision maker and I say, help me to see correctly. I want to choose again. I want to choose to see correctly. All right? And that's the process. Bring your perceptions back to the mind. Right? And in that quiet space in the mind is where your decision maker is. Right? And choose Holy Spirit, choose Jesus. Help me to see correctly. Right? And that's how your faith, belief, and vision will help everyone. Right? The mind is joined, the mind is one. Right? I make the choice, it affects everyone. All righty then. So, I think we can leave it here, so to speak. All right? Just remember, it's a process. All right? And there's great awarenesses and there's just wonderful aha moments along the way. And those moments make our desire to go to the right mind stronger. And we will do it more often until we get to the point where we do see the entire world, right, as either calling for love or extending love. And we will understand and we will love it all. All righty then. That's enough of me. I'll see you next time. Bye.